Today on Armchair Operator Guns and Gear Reviews, we're going to take a look at the PSA Dagger from Palmetto State Armory. Let's get into it.
Never stop, I'll get it if I want it. Gotta make to myself a promise. I won't quit, keep going till I got it. I won't give up till I'm on top.
Yo, no, I ain't the type to give up. If I do something, man, I do it till I get what I want. I turn a business out of nothing into something I love.
What's going on, everybody? It's your big homie, the Armchair Operator, and welcome to today's program. Now, if you're new to the channel, thank you for stopping by. I hope you find today's video informative. It may be a little bit entertaining. And if you're coming back to the channel, thank you so much for coming back. Your support means a lot to me. So now on to today's topic. So in the intro, as I stated in the intro, we're going to take a look at this fella, the PSA Dagger Compact from Palmetto State Armory. Now, most people at this point is familiar with Palmetto State Armory and specifically the Dagger. And so I figured this would be a great time to take a look at, I would say, something that's far more price range wise is far more in line with people's budgets. We all know that Palmetto tends to make some, I would say, lower cost options than some of your other big names like your Glocks and your Smith & Wesson. So with that, it gives a lot of people an opportunity to get either like a concealed carry firearm or a home defense firearm for less money than some of the competitors at reasonable quality. So we're just going to do a tabletop review of this particular gun here. Now, real quick, I got to give a shout out to a buddy of mine for actually providing the pistol for this review. So definitely thank you, sir, for supporting the channel. And, you know, I'm basically just going to do like a regular tabletop review like I normally do. Talk about the features, and I'm going to talk about some of my likes about the handgun, and I'm going to talk about some of my dislikes about the handgun, and then we're going to see how it is on the range, and then we're going to come back and close it out. All right, so without further ado, let's head on over to the tabletop, and let's talk about the features of the pistol. All right, y'all, welcome to the review space. As you can see, we got the PSA Dagger Compact here in its associated carrying case. So let's get into the accessories real quick. But before I do that, y'all know what I gotta do first. You know what I gotta do. I gotta verify clear, right? All right, so we're gonna draw the slide to the rear. As you can see, that chamber is empty. Magazine is empty. The firearm is clear. And we are filming in a safe and controlled environment. There isn't any live ammunition anywhere in my review space. All right, so let's talk about the pistol. So essentially, this is Palmetto's version, if you will, of the Generation 3 Glock 19. All right, so there's a number of similarities to that gun for obvious reasons. And like if you just look at the pistol, you can see like you got the single-sided magazine, not the magazine. Well, yeah, the single-sided magazine release and the thinner version of the magazine release that was common on the older Glocks, and the single-sided slide stop. All right, so you basically have that same footprint as the Glock 19. Basically, this particular version has I believe this is a 4.5-inch threaded barrel, and you know what I mean. And we have at optics height sights or suppressor height sights or whatever you want to call it. So let's talk about the sights. So the sighting setup here, as you can see, the rear sight sits in front of the optics plate. Now this is it has the RMR cut. So, you know, your Trijicon RMRs, your Hollow Sun optics, and a lot of your other RMR footprint optics will fit on this particular slide. This is just the optics cover plate that's on here right now. And let's look at the sighting picture. So like I said, on this particular slide, the rear sight is moved in front of the optics plate. Now, the advantage for that is, well, one, you do get a really good co-witness with your optic, but the other advantage too is that some of your larger optics like your SROs or maybe even some of your Acros, because of their size, they actually sit close to the ejection port. And what this does is it pushes the optic further to the rear of the slide, so that way you don't have to worry about shells coming out and actually hitting the optic itself. There have been plenty of cases where that has caused malfunctions in handguns just because of the optic sitting kind of close or slightly over the ejection port. SROs on some handguns are notorious for that, especially your 2011s. But anyway, let's get back to this. So we have optics height sights. They have a blacked out sight picture, blacked out in the rear, blacked out in the front. Like I said, we have a 4.5-inch threaded barrel. You have your thread protector right here. We also have, I believe Palmetto calls this your extreme carry cuts in the slide. Basically, these are milled slide cuts that essentially reduce reciprocating mass and the weight of the pistol. Speaking of the slide and barrel is actually DLC coded, so that's really good. Now, for those who are not familiar with the DLC code is basically like a hard Cerakote that has good lubricity. You usually see like DLC coating on some of your more expensive handguns. And, you know, guys who are into the 2011 world would know about the DLC coatings right away, because a lot of your higher end guns have that coating for a reason. It's very durable and it offers good lubricity. So for a gun that's actually sub $300 or sub $400, sub $350, depending on where you find it, I think that's a very good feature indeed. So moving on here, we have our accessory rail underneath, very similar to that of the Glock, right? And we also have our slide serrations in the back, which is really cool. We have our takedown button here. One real quick thing to note, it essentially disassembles the exact same way that you would field strip a Glock 19. Same procedure. Just wanted to throw that out there. Now, what is a bit different about this gun is the trigger mechanism in here. So we have a more of a hinge trigger style, kind of akin to that of the old school Smith & Wesson M&P series, or in terms of looks anyway, maybe your FN 5 series of guns, like your 509s, your 510s, and so on and so forth. So there's that. Now, about the trigger. Personally, I'm not a big fan of the stock trigger in this gun, and I'll tell you why. I'll show you why. How about that? So, like I said, we're going to verify clear. So, look at the trigger here, right? There's a lot of take-up before you hit that wall. So, we just go through. Now, the release is not bad. That's the release right there. So that's cool. My only real gripe, well, actually, no, I take that back. My two gripes with this trigger is it's the hinge style and it has a lot of mush. Now, for comparison's sake, I'm going to show you my Glock 19 Gen 5. All right, so this is my Glock 19 Gen 5, okay? Let's verify clear. There's no magazine in the gun, and this chamber is empty. So this gun is also clear. So this is your standard Glock trigger. Similar in shape, granted, but it has a different feel. So watch. So the take-up is similar, but the difference is the wall, at least in this particular gun, is a bit more defined, in my opinion. So we go through. And we release it, and it's right there. So I honestly kind of prefer the stock trigger in the Glock, believe it or not, only because it has a bit more of a defined wall. Now, the actual pull through that wall is a bit harder than, say, that of the Dagger itself. This actually feels a little softer after you hit that wall and pull it through. But anyway, moving right along from there. Let's talk about the texture. So the texture on the trigger, the texture on the grip, it's not very aggressive. It's okay. I personally kind of prefer a more aggressive texture, but for those who do not prefer an aggressive texture, I think you'll like this particular texture here. Although I will say, if you have wet hands, sweaty hands, God forbid, bloody hands, you may have a little bit of, this texture may not do it for you in that instance. Now, speaking of the grip itself, the grip feels really good in the hand. It feels really good in my dominant shooting hand. And I attribute that basically to the shape. Now, when I first looked at this grip and I saw this nub, I wasn't sure how I would like this nub when I actually fired the pistol on the range. But honestly, I have to say that it doesn't really get in the way. Like, you really don't feel it at all. At least I don't feel it. So it's actually it's cool. It actually helps you to grip the gun a bit more. Plus, you have more of an undercut here on the trigger guard, as opposed to, like, say, a stock Glock, whether you're talking about a Gen 4 or even a Gen 5 here. You don't really get that undercut all that much, and that the infamous Glock knuckle is definitely a thing when you're talking about a Glock handgun. But with the PSA Dagger here, you don't really worry about that. Like, it's not really pushing very hard up on my knuckles, so I do like that. And while we're on the subject of the grip itself, so one thing about this gun that I've noticed is that it has a rather short length of pull as far as the trigger. And that's attributed to the grip. Now, the Generation 3 Glocks also have relatively thin grips for my hands, in my opinion, and I have been bitten by the slide on more than one occasion for those guns. And also, I've been bitten on the slide a couple times by the Dagger here. As I don't know if you can see, but there you go, slide bite. So when you're gripping the pistol here with one hand, it's not bad, right? Like, you kind of see where my hand is, right? But the minute I try to get a nice solid two-hand grip, you see how my thumb kind of rides up a little bit over the frame of the gun. So it's very easy for when that slide to come back to catch your hand under recoil. So I say all that to say this. If you have larger hands, that's just something you want to be aware of if you do plan on getting into a PSA Dagger compact. Now, I don't know if there are any grip module or back straps or anything like that that could lengthen the length of pull of the trigger, thicking out that grip a little bit to make it a bit more comfortable. I don't know. I haven't seen any. And just based on the contour of this back strap, the aftermarket back straps for the Gen 3 Glocks and Gen 4 Glocks more than likely will not fit this. I don't know that to be 100% sure, but I don't think that'll fit. But for those of you who may have more medium-sized hands or smaller hands, I think this grip will be a good fit for you. I will put it like this. If you are comfortable with running, say, a Generation 3 Glock or Gen 4 Glock or something like that without the additional back straps, I think you'll be fine with this. This little beaver tail, I think, is really nice too. But again, for me, if the beaver tail was just a little bit longer to cover my hand up a little bit, I think it would be a bit more comfortable. And just to give you a visual with the magazine inserted here. Now, one thing I do like they have the cuts here at the bottom of the grip, so that way you can rip the magazine out should the need arise. So I think that's really neat. And about the magazine ejection, so one of the things that I did notice when I was shooting the pistol on the range, and I don't know if it's just me or maybe the way I was holding the grip, but sometimes it just kind of felt like the magazine wouldn't drop freely. Now, I can do it here all day long like it's nothing. Could also be the fact that maybe I just wasn't pushing the button hard enough. Maybe the pistol was a little hot, so it was sticking up a bit. I'm not 100% sure, but I did notice that while I was shooting on the range. But all in all, that's pretty much the long and the short of the features. Let's see, you got your tools here. It does come with a tool and a set of replacement screws to remove the optics plate. So that way you can mount your Armory footprint style optic of choice. And it comes with, I believe, a cable lock. Yep, cable lock because of safety, right? Safety is muy importante. And all in all, that's basically it. So let's head on over to the range and just give you my assessment or as far as how the pistol shoots on the range. All right, so let's head on over there, and then we're going to double back to the review space and close it out. All right, we're about to do our first shots with the Palmetto Armory Dagger. It's at 7 yards. Let's see how it runs. Just shooting some regular 124 grains today. Alright, so right off the hop, I'm struggling a little bit because of the size of the grip. I kind of figured that old Gen 3 Glock grip, I had problems with that one too. That's kind of one of the reasons why I prefer the Gen 4 and Gen 5 grips on, you know, the later Glocks. But I mean, it runs. Let's load up another mag and let's do it again. Let's check the target. As you can see, it's pretty bad. I'll get the hang of it though. Alright, so real quick, I forgot to mention, got a little slide bite on that last go around. Big hand, small grip, you know, easy equation to put 2 and 2 together, right? But I got another mag loaded up, so let's go. Well, this only got 3 rounds in it. Get the idea. That one was a lot better. Yeah, this versus that. That's the struggle when you're using a gun with a short length of pull, small grips. Like I said, these big old meat hooks, I got to adjust, and sometimes it's kind of difficult to adjust, but it's possible. So for people with smaller hands, I think the Dagger would be a good fit for them. But let's see, that's 50 rounds. Let's do another 50 through the gun and see how it runs. All right, so I got another 50 rounds loaded up across 4 mags. And also, just so y'all know, I'm using OEM Glock mags. Of course, we all know that the Daggers run on Glock mags, but I just wanted to do it just to, you know, stand by my words that they do, even though we all know that. That makes sense. Anyway, another 50 rounds loaded up. Let's go. We'll say this though, the magazines get a little sticky. I don't know if it's the OEM Glock mags or it's the Magpul ones, but they do get kind of sticky. Let me try it again. Yeah, they tend to get a little sticky. But I'm pretty good. I'll check that out. Let's head back to the review area and close out with my final thoughts. Welcome back to the review space. So you saw the footage on the range, and final synopsis, the gun runs, right? Of course it runs. You know, it's based on the Gen 3 Glock, probably one of the most reliable polymer frame striker fire handguns in the world. Now, like I said, when I was there, the magazines did feel like it was getting a little bit sticky, and I wasn't sure if it was the OEM Glock mags or if it was the mag pull, or if it was the fact that I was shooting. I'm not really sure. It could be any number of things, but I'm not going to hold it against the pistol. You know what I mean? It could be operator error. I don't know. But I just wanted to point that out. That was one of the experiences that I had when I was running the Dagger on the range, if that makes sense. So out of all the rounds, I only put about 100 rounds through the gun, and it ate it all. You know, I didn't have any issues, any bobbles or anything like that. So from a function standpoint, the pistol is good. Now, so that was also one of the pros about the gun. It runs, okay? Another pro about the gun, they give you optics height sights, right? So that's definitely a pro. Plus you got a threaded barrel here. And you can run a suppressor on it. You could put a compensator on it, or you could probably get the ramjet for the Glock Generation 3 and just replace the barrel outright and run that too. So the great thing about the daggers themselves is that there's a lot of aftermarket support for the gun. So you could customize this thing really to the hills. Magazine options are available and so on and so forth. So you could get yourself a larger stick mag, like say north of, you know, YouTube. I can't really say, but y'all know what I'm talking about. The big old long boys, pause, that you see out there on the market. You could use one of them, or you could use a 15 rounder for when you want to conceal more, you know, have it be more concealed, or you could use a 17 round mag, whatever the case may be. So you don't have to use the Generation 3 Glock mags. You could use the modern generation of Glock magazines, and it'll run it all day long. You can even get the mag pulls, it'll run it all day long. Now with the trigger, you could also replace out the trigger too. You could put an Apex trigger in there if you don't like this, you know. So another great point, a great point about the Dagger is that there's a lot that you can do with the gun. So you could look at get one of these and see it's kind of like a blank canvas and just set it up however you want to set it up. So that's the great thing about it. And now let's talk about the cons. So the cons, the biggest con for me has to be the size of this grip. Like I said, I got bit on the range twice by the slide, and that was mainly because when I tried to use my support, my actual shooting grip, my thumb kind of comes up a bit and it is just in the way of the slide. So it got me pretty good on the range when I was shooting it. And that's my main criticism. Of course, the stock trigger, I'm not a fan of the stock trigger, but like I said, you can always throw an aftermarket in there that's compatible and be good to go. The blacked out sight picture, I'm not a big fan of blacked out sight picture, but at the same time, I personally think that this is better than standard Glock sight. So there's that, and their optics height. So all in all, especially like I said, for a pistol that's sub $400, this is a really good buy, I think, in my opinion. Is it something that's a good fit for me personally? Me personally, no, mainly because of the issues with the grip. So for those shooters who have larger hands, that is definitely something that you'll want to consider if you want to get into a PSA Dagger, full size, compact, whatever, is that length of pull the trigger and the potential slide bite. But for those of you who have smaller hands, or small hands, whatever the case may be, then this, personally, at least in my opinion, I think this will be a good low-cost option to get your foot in the door for a solid concealed carry handgun or even a home defense platform. So definitely, I would say check out the PSA Dagger lineup. You may find something that ultimately will suit you for a decent price. So with all that being said, what do you all think about the PSA Dagger? Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments section. Do you have a dagger? Do you like the daggers? Do you don't like the daggers? Let's just talk about it. Let's just talk about all about the PSA daggers and, you know, share some information with everybody else, right? All right, so again, if you like today's video, definitely let me know by hitting the like button down below. Give us subscribe to your channel. It helps support me more than you know. It doesn't cost anything for a subscription. It just helps a brother out to continue to create content, some more content, some better content. And hopefully I will be able to continue to bring you some more worthwhile information about my experiences with these products. So, all right, y'all, I'm going to close it out there. Thank you so much for watching today's program. And this is your big homie, and I'm out, y'all. Peace.